Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. And second on our agenda is the approval of the amendments for September 25th, 2023. Can I get a motion and a second? Terry, Ruin, and Mr. Windish. Are there any questions, comments? Put this a little closer to me. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are none. Okay, moving on to our informational items. We'd like to hear from the county clerk's office. Ms. Parker.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everyone has their report in their packet, and I have nothing to add to that unless you have any questions.
Comments? Questions? I have none. There are none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let us take this time to hear from our County Election Commission. We have a presentation as well as a report.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll wait until Scott's got it up on the screen.
And this is from Miss Elizabeth Gannon.
That is correct, yes.
Getting it right.
I guess I can start with my report while we're waiting.
All right, thank you.
for Scott. I really don't have much to bring today. I wanted to just share the filing dates for petitions. Those are quickly approaching for District 150. Those begin on October 30th and go through November 6th. And then established party candidates begin filing November 27th through December 4th.
Okay.
It looks like he's got me up and going
Thank
here.
you. Okay.
You can go to the next slide. Okay, so the Peoria County Election Commission was established in 2015 through a county board initiated referendum. Prior to that, there were 2 election jurisdictions in Peoria County. The City Election Commission handled everything within the city limits of Peoria, and then the Peoria County Clerk handled everything outside the city limits within the county. So with the passage of the referendum, the Peoria County Election Commission was created. It is made up of 5 commissioners. These commissioners are appointed by the chief judge, and 3 of those commissioners have to live within the city limits of Peoria. 2 have to live outside the city limits within the county. The political makeup of the commissioners changes every 2 years. Right now we have 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and that will flip next year. Next slide. Our mission. The mission of the Peoria County Election Commission is to conduct accurate, secure, fair, and accessible local, state, and federal elections with the highest level of professionalism and integrity in a manner that fosters public trust and confidence in the democratic process. So when you think of our office, you can go to the next slide. When you think of our office, there's really 2 areas that we work with. We've got our voter registration and maintenance of that, and then we have the election management. So let's talk about voter registration and maintenance first. We average around 2,000 to 4,000 registrations monthly, and this is anywhere from a new registration that's received, an update, so if someone already lives within the county and they're moving to another address within the county, and then our cancellations, whether you're leaving Peoria County or you've passed away. Those registrations come to us in a number of different sources. The ones that are probably familiar to you that you think of is if you go to the library or the township hall and there's someone on staff there that will register you to vote. That's a deputy registrar. You can also print off a mail-in registration form from our website. And then the Secretary of State's office. If you have business at the office, you'll be registered to vote. It is an opt-out program. Other ways that we receive information is through IVRS, and this stands for Illinois Voter Registration System. This is managed by the Illinois State Board of Elections, and this allows all election jurisdictions throughout Illinois to communicate. So voters are given a statewide ID number, and then we're able to make matches through name, date of birth, social security number, driver's license, state ID number. We are also able to verify identification through IVRS. So when an individual registers to vote, you have to provide either the last four of your social or your Illinois state ID or driver's license. And we are able to verify and validate that information that's given through IVRS. We have connections with the Secretary of State and the Social Security Administration to do that before our registration is completed.
Okay.
Also through IVRS, we have a link to the Illinois Department of Health, which allows us to get monthly deceased records for anyone within the state of Illinois. Two other sources are national change of address. So if you complete this at the post office, we will be notified through IVRS of this, and we will update your registration as a result of that. We also have ERIC, Electronic Registration Information Center. This is a contract that the Illinois State Board of Elections is in. It's a nonprofit organization that brings states together. So it's cross-state matches, in-state mover reports, duplicate reports, and deceased reports. There's about 25 states, including the District of Columbia, that are a part of this program. Moving on to election management. So we have two elections potentially every year. In odd years, if we have to have a primary, depending on how many people file and it triggers that primary would be held in February, with the general election held in April. In even years, the primary is held in March, and the general is held in November. So depending on the type of election we're working with, this is the basic cycle that we'll go through. So we'll start with petition filing. So all of you here are familiar with that. A few of you will be doing that here in a few weeks. You're circulating your petitions, getting signatures from registered voters within your district, and then you file that in our office as an intent to run.
Yes.
The next there is ballot certification. And when I talk about petition filing, I think it's important to remember that this is just at the county level and down. So county, municipal, township. If you're running for state rep or a state office, those petitions are filed with the Illinois State Board of Elections. And then the ballot certification comes into play. So, for example, the Illinois State Board of Elections will certify to us who we need to put on the ballot. We also do ballot certification. So an example of that would be the Farmington Library District that is in both Peoria County and Fulton County. So those library trustees that are running file their petitions in our office, and then we create a ballot certification that's sent to Fulton County so they know the names to put on the ballot. Next on there is ballot preparation. So everything is handled in-house, so we take those petition filings, ballot certification, and the information within our voter registration database and create the ballot. And depending on how many races, how many parties, that determines how many ballot styles we potentially have to ensure that every voter within the county received the correct ballot. It's a lot of proofing. Next there is election judge recruitment and training. In order to be fully staffed for our polling places, we require around 450 election judges. We like to have over 500, so we've got a little wiggle room there for cancellations. And we also do all of the training for them as well. from the creating the curriculum and the actual training itself. In-person training is required. Each election judge is required to complete either a 2 or 4 hour training, depending on their station. And they also have online training that they need to complete, but they can reference all the way up to the election. Next listed there is polling place management. So we have, it's actually in my next slide, but we have 55 polling places in Peoria County and 13 early voting locations. So we are managing those throughout the year, making sure those relationships are still stable. We are meeting our ADA requirements for each of our polling places. And then next there is voting equipment maintenance and programming. So I'll start with programming. So once we've got the ballot created, I have to put that ballot on the voting equipment. And so that is election specific, and it can also be location specific. So when you think about elections, there's really 3 different ways that you can vote, right? You've got vote by mail, early voting, and those begin 40 days prior to the election. And then you have election day voting. So we're essentially managing 3 different elections at the same time because they all have different processes and procedures. The next, and then along with that is voting equipment maintenance. So just making sure that the annual maintenance on our voting equipment is completed from election to election, and we're maintaining that. Ballot tabulation and retention. So this goes into, vote by mail, when those ballots come back and processing that, getting early voting ballots from location back to the office, and then we've got election day ballots as they come in. So at 7 p.m. on election night, we begin the tabulation. Election results are not complete on election night. You continue to vote and not vote, I'm sorry, you continue to count 14 days out, and then the election is certified.
Okay.
So that's really voter registration, maintenance, and election management in a nutshell there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions for me with respect to that, but we'll move on to the next slide.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give you some overall statistics. We average around 117,000 registered voters in Peoria County. We currently have over 16,000 voters signed up for our permanent vote by mail program. We have 265 voting districts. We like to vote on everything in Illinois. We have 116 precincts, 55 election day polling places, and 13 early voting locations that we skip around to within that 2-week period.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to our office staff, we have 5.5. We have myself, the assistant director. We have 2 full-time election specialists. We have a part-time staff there as well. And then we have 1 warehouse operations. During an election, we are bringing in temporary staff, depending on the election, anywhere from 5 to 20 temporary employees, 10 election day field support staff, and 500 plus election judges. Mm-hmm. That is my presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
I have one.
Yes,
On your petitions, you have to turn in the original signatures, right? No copies?
it has to be the original.
Right, okay. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
And notarized, is that correct?
That is part of
Yes.
the form, correct?
Yes.
I feel like Jenny should. It is a legal form. Anything else? I was expecting a lot.
Yeah, I have several questions.
Okay.
In regards to, for one question, in regards to your voting machines, you mentioned how you, one question, backups. How is that process? What is that?
Sure. So it's a paper-based system, so you always have that paper ballot as a backup to go to. But those CVRs, cast vote records, as they're called, are stored within the piece of equipment itself and
Okay.
also within basically the flash drive that contains the election-specific information. So there's at least three.
And how long is that kept? Is that that
It depends
information?
on the type of election. So if it's a federal election, we have to keep everything for 22 months. If it's a local municipal election, it's a 6 weeks. And we have to ask for, from the state archives to get rid of that.
Oh, okay. In your state archive?
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense. In regards to your security, as far as, again, I'm talking about the voter machines. I'm thinking on tamper resistance. What's the process there, or what's the
Sure.
security with that?
So I'll talk to early voting and election day, which is where you have voting equipment out and people are
Yes,
voting.
sure.
Okay. So before any piece of election equipment leaves our office, we are recording the unique serial and seal number for that piece of equipment. And we're also recording the serial number on the flash drive that is locked within the equipment that stores the votes. So when that piece of equipment goes to the polling place, the election judges have to record that information at the beginning of the day. Once the polls close, they record that again. And then when they bring the equipment back to the office, before we tabulate any votes, we ensure that the serial and seal number that left match what they brought back for that polling place.
And you have a designated person who transports the election equipment?
So anytime voting equipment or ballots are being moved, it's a bipartisan task of election judges. So there's one Democrat and one Republican, and they have to ride in the same car.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, and what else? Yeah, you answered one of my questions, transportation of the ballots. And, okay, and there's always that voter fraud mitigation information. You deal a lot with that, or how do you handle that?
It's an ongoing attempt to educate, and I think there's a lot of mismal and disinformation out there right now around elections, and things like this, getting out, talking, explaining is
Okay,
the
yeah,
best thing to
sure.
do. So we've been to a few organizations within the last year. We continue to do that anytime anyone reaches out. We're more than welcome to go out and talk to them. I actually have a specific election integrity slide deck that we'll go through. If you'd like me to present that to you at a different time, I'm happy to do
Sure.
so.
Okay.
And then social media campaign, we work very closely with Gretchen and Nick in communications
Good.
to try to keep up on that.
Okay, sounds good. I have one last question, everybody, and then we can move on. Back at your presentation, when you spoke of when we talked about the political makeup changes every 2 years, and here you show three Democrats, 2 Republicans. Then does it switch?
Yes.
Oh,
So
the
next
number
year,
of-
one of the Democratic commissioners will have to step down, and the chief judge will appoint a Republican commissioner.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious to know how did they do that. Okay. Any other questions, comments, since we stirred the pot? Okay, well,
thank you so much.
so much, and I'm sure during election time you'll probably hear more from, hopefully from us as well, and our constituents as well.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I like that. Moving on. Okay, I'd like to now hear from our supervisor of assessment. Oh, he's in place.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm already
Ryan.
here. So, not too much to report. The good news is we are done with our portion of the 2023 revaluation. The complaint deadline was October 13th, so we're tallying those right now. As you'll remember, I send what's called a tentative abstract down to the Department of Revenue, so they check all our numbers to make sure we are within 33 and a third of market value, and we were actually right on 33 and a third. I think that might be the first time we've been right at exactly 33 and a third after we were done. So that's good news. They send that information to the county clerk, and then we'll send a final abstract out after the board of review is completed with all of their hearings. Currently, we're estimating we're going to have about 600 hearings. We're still tallying those, or 600 complaints, which is down about 40% from what it was in 2019. That's the last time we did the revaluation. So we're not seeing, we got a lot of phone calls, but we're not seeing actual complaints being filed. So any questions?
What do you attribute that to?
What we were hearing most of the time is individuals questioning why their value went up a certain percent, or why did it go up so much in 1 year. But when you ask them, could they sell their house for that much in this market? Most of the answers were yes, I could probably sell it for more than that. So basically, it's coming down to they have to provide information
Yeah,
of
sure.
other homes that have sold maybe in the area and what they're selling for. And it's hard to find, housing prices are continually rising, so it's hard to find those. So that's what I attribute it to.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Rulon?
Yes, regarding resolution of complaints, assuming you get them, what's the procedure or what options are there for the taxpayer to have that issue resolved? Can they substitute an appraiser, or how does it work?
Yeah, typically what we do in any complaint process is originally we say contact your local township assessor first. So they typically do that when they get their assessment notice. They have something wrong with the property and they need the local township assessor to come look at it. They'll look at it and provide a resolution at that point, so they don't have to go through the formal hearing process of the board of review. If it gets to the point, then they file with the board of review, and they've got to bring some information. Information may be an appraisal. We have all the information and sales of residential property online, so they can just go online and pull all the sales within their area, and it'll automatically print out what we call a complaint grid for them. So we did that several years ago, so they can do that if it's a residential complaint. Commercial complaints are a little more difficult. They've got to find other commercial properties that have sold. So typically it's all based on market values and finding other market value properties that have sold. If you have an appraisal or got any type of refinance done in the last year or two, you can always bring that in. We used to get a lot more of those, but the refinancing boom has stopped basically because interest rates are so much higher.
Yes.
Not many people are refinancing right now. So that's the process they need. And then after they go to the local hearing at the board of review, if they don't like that, then they can go to the state property tax appeal board and file a complaint there. That's usually taken about a year or two before that complaint will be heard. But
Okay.
Thank you.
Question. Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And we'd like to hear now from our treasurer, Ms. Berkey.
On October 18th, we did our fifth distribution, and we distributed $25.8 million. So far, we've collected and distributed a little over $324 million, which is equivalent to 96.5% of what was levied. We sent out 6,012 delinquent notices. Yeah, it's a fun time in our office right now. The last day to pay is November 3rd, and we're only accepting certified funds at this point. Credit cards, we do accept through October 30th, and today's the last day for electronic checks. Our tax sale is November 6th, and just a public service announcement. The delinquent notices, we've caught a couple instances of fraud for people where they mailed their payment, but somehow it got intercepted and someone whitewashed either the name and the dollar amount or just the name. And so they call and they're angry because they've made their payment. However, it didn't come to us and it wasn't deposited in our bank account. So always check your bank account. And like I said, the one person, all they did was change the name, and they're doing it through a mobile app. So that's why the bank's not catching it on their end. So, the person looked at their account, the amount was correct. However, the person's name was changed. It was
Good.
changed
Yeah,
from
they
us
were
to
able
an
to check it.
individual. So that's all I have.
Okay. To couple, any comments, questions from anyone? I have a couple. One, you mentioned the tax sale. When is that again?
It's November 6th.
And where will it be? I think that's what
It's
I
here
wanted
in
to.
this room.
In
It
this
starts
room.
at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
It's done a little bit differently the last couple of years. It started with COVID. So the tax buyer comes in, we provide a tax sale list prior to the sale that will be available to them on the Saturday before the sale. They put in the amount that they're willing to bid on it, and it's 0 to 9%. All the information is uploaded into our county trustees computer program. They're the ones that actually run our sale. And then it's just a random, if the lowest bid wins, unless there's multiple low bids. If they're all at 1 or 2%, then the computer randomly chooses one that's the winner of the taxes. It's just the taxes being sold, it's not the property, so it doesn't give a tax buyer any
Yes.
rights to the property. They just have to start legally sending notices to the owners that their taxes have been sold.
And can anyone attend the tax sale even though you may not be participating?
Yeah, anybody can come watch.
Oh,
it.
people can watch, okay. And then one other question I had, it's in regards to the delinquent taxes. We talked a little bit about it, and would you talk a little bit about the type and share a little bit more information about that?
Sure. On the
Okay.
list that you have before you today, there are 3 different types. One type is SAL, which is sale, and those are properties that were sold at the auction, the trustee auction. So these people have completed their due process. They've submitted their payments, and they're made good with the trustee. So now it would be up to you guys to approve this, and then the county board to say yes, it's okay to do a tax deed to these individuals. The second one is SUR, which is surrender, which means that that parcel is past the extension date to redeem. The trustee has offered a payment program to them, so they have made monthly payments to pay the total dollar amount that was due. So they've completed that process, and they made those payments directly to the trustee without going through the county clerk's redemption process, but they fulfilled their obligation, so now the trustee is surrendering the certificate, and now eventually they'll do a tax deed back to those people.
Yes.
And then the REC is reconveyance, where the owner they lost the property, but they did a payment plan as well through the trustee, and now the trustee is reconveying it back to the owners.
Back to them, okay. So at what point in time is it final? The tax sale is final and the person loses their property over taxes?
It usually takes 2.5 to 3 years for
Okay.
someone to lose their property. In that meantime, there are all kinds of certified notices that are being sent
Yeah.
out. There's publications in the paper, there's delinquent notices, and just looking at the report, know that that last column that says treasurer, the county does not receive all that money. The treasurer's office does, and then I do an adjustment within our tax system that redistributes all that money out to all the taxing districts
Okay,
of
I
those
was wondering how that
particular
worked.
tax codes where those properties are located. So that is not, even though it says treasurer, that's not county money.
Sure, yeah. Because I noticed where it talked about the total to county, so when we look at treasurer, all that does not go to them, to you all?
No,
Okay.
it's distributed out to all the
All
different
of
taxing
them. Good to
districts.
know, good to know. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, well, we had some good information today. We will not be here, unless someone is here from the Veterans Assistance Commission. We will not be hearing a report from them. Now, moving on to our resolution, we do have a monthly delinquent taxes, and I need a motion and a second to bring that to the floor. Danny and Mr. Windish. Okay. Any questions, comments? We just had a good explanation of many of the items on that delinquent tax list. Okay, if there's not any comments or questions, let's have a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Okay, all those opposed? And there are none? Okay, it's so approved. Okay, moving on to public comments. Any public comments? Well, we did not receive any, so there are none. Miscellaneous. There are none? Okay. 4 o'clock, this meeting has been adjourned.